Good morning. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us. I'm Mary Winters, and I'm the host of your program, the owner of About Senior Solutions. We provide geriatric care management. Basically, we're the hub for all things senior, and we wanted to make sure that you were aware of some great resources and that you plan ahead and make sure that you're living your vision of aging. We're going to talk a little bit about the power you have to manage and control what you need for creating your vision of aging. We plan for weddings, we plan for vacations, we plan for all kinds of things, but sometimes I think we forget that we need to plan for everything in our life. And the very end is very important. So today we have a great program with you for you. We have Steve McCullough. He has a great caregiver question for you. I'm not even sure what it is, so he's going to be surprising me with that. And we have Geraldine turning 100. So we have some fun photos of Geraldine, who's in Minnesota celebrating her birthday. And we also have a very special guest, Dr. Regina Lark. And she is going to talk about organizing and transitioning from those large homes into a smaller apartment or a senior living, and how she can take that extremely daunting task and turn that into something much more easy, or at least provide that support to make it very easy. So let's go and we'll add Geraldine to the screen today because she is our special. Let's see, here we go. She is our special feature today. And
Good morning. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
and join you in just a second here too. Let's see. You're on solo. There you are.
Here you are.
How are you this
Hello.
morning?
I'm great. How was your St. Patty's Day?
Oh, it was nice. Not quite what we expect to be able to go
Right.
out, but maybe we didn't need to go out to the bars at 2 o'clock or noon and just drink coffee.
Yeah,
How about yours?
it was good. It's quiet, but had a traditional meal and may have had a pint or two of Guinness. So
Nice.
no
Nice.
complaints.
So
I just realized I need to get that shirt that lady has in the picture you have up on the screen for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll put a sticker on your head too. So what is your question today?
So my question is, for people that are not able to ambulate very well, if you have an emergency at home, what's the best course of action to get to the hospital? Do we call 911 or do we have someone drive us? If someone could drive us, what would be the plan of action?
So if they had an emergency and somebody could actually take them, and this happens a lot with heart attacks actually, or strokes, and people typically think that the best way maybe just to get in their car and head to the hospital. But what's happening too, well, with COVID, everything changed, but I think things are starting to kind of simmer down a little bit. It's actually recommended that you call 911 and have an ambulance take you. And the reason being is you get priority going into the ER when you are in an ambulance. But even in addition to that, we've also done enough research and studied that if you're in the midst of having a heart attack, people often are in transit with a loved one in the car and they wind up having an arrest of some kind to where they need to stop the car and then they're not able to even get to the hospital. Some really tragic situations. So really, truly, you should call 911 if you think that you are having an episode where you need to be checked. EMTs can come out and check and verify if you have an issue. It's just always better safe than sorry.
True.
To get not get in the car, but call the ambulance and get you over there. And even if you choose to walk into an ER, let them know immediately that you're having signs or symptoms of a stroke or a heart attack if that is the issue that you're having, because they will prioritize you when you walk in too. Very, very important. You take priority over a cold.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, which is why you also see if you're in the ER for I don't know, broken finger or something, you'll be sitting there for hours.
True.
Over the people who have other issues that are
justifiably
serious. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Good answer.
Definitely. So guess what? I found this in my house. Maybe I should talk with this about with Dr. Lark. But
nice. How old is that?
It's probably from the 80s or the early 90s. I have no idea. But we have Dr. Lark on, and she's going to talk about her business, which is a Clear Path. And she deals with lots of hoarders, lots of OCD, but she also transitions seniors from their large homes or medium-sized homes into other settings when they're interested. So I'm going to ask her if there's something going on with my mind in regards to this film hanging out. There was a lot at that house actually that was disposed of and so forth, but I'll have to ask her about that.
We have a question from Suzette. Let's circle back on that before the end of the show.
Okay,
you see that?
Sounds good. Yeah, I do. Well, I take my glasses off, so I can't. But yes, I can.
Right.
So how
Suzette,
about?
thanks for the question.
Oh, okay. Oh, she has a question. Can you see her question?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you ask her question?
Okay. Basically, she's asking about being charged for the ambulance ride if it wasn't a real emergency. Apparently, she has a friend who went through this dilemma and was worried that she would be charged for the ambulance ride.
Well, I know finances are always a concern for people. I would check with her insurance now before it's an emergency to see what kind of coverage she has or what she would be potentially responsible for. So that's actually a great question. So I think that would ease your mind, and then you can assess what's going to be most important to you. But EMTs will also come out from the fire department too to check in on you, and then maybe they can determine that you don't need a ride to the hospital. So that could be another option.
Right, because they could always cancel the ambulance if they decide not to go, correct?
They can, or they don't dispatch an ambulance until they know that they need something. So yeah, for sure.
Thanks for the question, Suzette.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you want to join me at the end of the show?
Well, try and stop me.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a good show.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, let's go ahead and we're gonna. This is Dr. Lark. And two. Hi, Regina. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty day too.
It is. I love LA.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about your specialty. I was saying, each of these kind of little areas with time management and procrastination and hoarding and OCD or AC, what am I trying to say? ADHD. They're all a little bit different as far as your approach. And I find that your understanding of all these things are so unique to what a lot of other organizers are doing. And you've won a lot of awards and been recognized in this area. So share a little bit about your techniques and what makes you special.
Mary, I get a lot of calls from people who will say something like this. I've got to move. I've been living here for 40 years and we have to get out. But I'm afraid I am just like the show. I'm afraid that there's just I can't possibly get through everything. And when they talk about the show, they're talking about hoarders buried alive.
Yeah.
And from my research, approximately 5 to 7% of the population have a diagnosable hoarding disorder.
So
the rest of the population that I work with are people who are chronically disorganized. Now, somebody with a hoarding disorder is chronically disorganized, but not all chronically disorganized people have a hoarding disorder.
Interesting.
And my reading of all of this, and I earned so my doctorate is in women's history, but now I say the PhD stands for piled higher and deeper. and I'm a researcher at heart. And so when I got into this industry, professional organizing productivity, I recognized that my pretty may not be your pretty, and that I was working with people who are living with brain-based conditions, from anxiety, depression, ADHD, the effect of trauma on the prefrontal cortex. And all of these conditions will lend themselves to lousy time management, terrible emotional management, the inability to sequence, plan, prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the folks we work with have to-do lists, but they're never to done.
That's a great way to put it.
So I come across a lot of to-do lists with much of the same information on every list because they're not getting to done. So when I was working on earning these certifications and recognizing that people with a lot of clutter have just a very hard time with that planning and processing. So often I will hear, here's a pile of stuff. I may need it someday.
Yeah.
So I try to help people understand what someday looks like. What does someday have to look like in order for this thing to be used? Can you picture it? If you can't picture it and you decide I'm going to let this go, pretend this is a rice cooker, I'm going to let this go. And can you picture that should you need the rice cooker again and you don't have it, can you think of what you could substitute? Can you borrow it from a neighbor? Is the item you let go not very expensive? People tend to catastrophize the outcome of letting go of something that they may need someday.
Right.
So they'll err on the side of holding on to it rather than come up with the scenario. And I'm going to take a step back. A lot of decluttering and downsizing and letting go and making these decisions, a lot of it starts with mindfulness. We have to really think through what's going on. I'm going to invent the calendar that's going to have someday twice a month. Someday, later, maybe. These are words that are used to hold on to things. I will use this someday. I need this someday. I'm going to use this later. I need it later.
Or there's sentimental value to things too. And
okay, so there's the stuff we think we may need someday, and we're afraid of letting go of it. Fear, and I'm going to say this word fear a lot. We're afraid of letting go because if we let it go, when someday comes, something not good is going to happen.
Yeah.
Then there's the stuff from the past, and it's what we have assigned memory to. It's what we have assigned story to. So when we hear about grandma's platters from the old country, pretty much everybody had platters. Pretty much everybody had a coffee mug. Pretty much everybody had pots and pans and dishes. It's the story that came with the artifact, and that becomes the story. So I worked with a young woman once, and she had pouches, quilted pouches of grandma's good dishes.
Oh, wow.
And we worked in her dining room, and she was going to use the dining room for an art room. So the hutch that the dishes lived in got moved to another place. And then a few months later, we're in the kitchen working on that, and we came across the quilted pouches of grandma's dishes, and we're about to move them again. And I opened one of the pouches and I held up the dish. I said, "Oh my gosh, these are beautiful. Your grandma had such good taste. I bet you remember a lot of family stories and dinner table." And she said, "Well, we didn't really use them very much." And she said, "I never met my grandma."
Oh,
I
wow.
said, "Oh, okay. So these must have been, good dishes to have at the table, grandma stories." She goes, "Well, we didn't really use them because they were grandma's good dishes."
Yeah. You don't use the good things. You let them.
Can't use the good dishes. And I grabbed her hand. I took her over to the cupboard. We opened the cupboard doors, and I said, "Sylvia, you have a lot of mismatched dishes here." I said, "Why don't you use grandma's dishes?" And she goes, "I can do that?"
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
said, "Yes, it is time to give grandma's good dishes. They could become your good dishes. They can become your everyday dishes. But how can you incorporate the family story and these dishes into your current life?" But what I do know, and I think of the public storage, external storage is like a 36 or 56 billion dollar. It's like a multi-billion-dollar industry. I call it the land of indecision. It's the land of emotional mismanagement. I may need these things someday, or I can't let go of them because of how they entered my life. And so what I see is we're holding on to the future. We may need it someday. I'm afraid of letting go of that. And then we have our hand on the past. I'm afraid of letting go of that. It was one guy said, Regina, if I let go of all my concert t-shirts, how will anybody know I used to be cool? So again, the story, these represent cool. Women's power suits from back in the day, these represent success. And if I don't have these artifacts that tell my story, who am I?
Sure. Yeah.
And it's scary. It's scary. So part of the downsizing and the letting go is to get into your solid. Like, gosh, all of these experiences brought me right here to where I am. I would not be who I am today without being that, only woman on the trading floor on Wall Street, right? Back in the day. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't run those marathons. So whatever it is, we tend to leave our relationship to the past as a reflection of who we used to be instead of how we are so magnificent now because of all these experiences.
Yeah. I had a lady who, she thought her feet looked really good in these shoes. I wish I had a picture of her. I do somewhere, in my phone, but she loved the way her feet looked in these shoes, and they were the same shoes that Liz Taylor had made at some point, and they were gold tip, backless, open toe, and she had macular degeneration, and she could saunter around in these, and she just, not a problem. She was so used to walking in these shoes. They were amazing. And she had probably 2 in every single color and another 20 gold tips to the side so that she could, re-embellish her shoe.
Very stylish.
And just amazing. But nobody knew what to do with all of these shoes when she moved. And we did organize the basics that she wanted, but I come across so many seniors who will not move because they are so concerned about, some of it's lifting and taking care of some of that. Let's see if we still have Dr. Lark with us. I think she might have dropped out. We'll see if she comes back. But we've had so many situations with people who they become immobilized. They don't know how to move themselves to be able to be in a safer place, to move to either a smaller apartment or move in with a family member or move to an assisted living facility. And it's so challenging, and I think such a daunting thing. Let me go ahead and Gina is back with us, so we will go ahead and bring her back on, and we can take her picture out. So yeah, I was just saying that it's so daunting for a lot of seniors to be able to make that transition because so many memories. You may have that 3, 4, 5 bedroom home where you raised your children, and share a little bit about how you reduce the anxiety for someone who's making that big transition.
Well, it's the decision to make the transition was a long time in coming. And once families get to me, the decision has been made to transition into a smaller place or into one of the amazing communities that we have here in Southern California and Los Angeles. So much of it has to do with really good communication, getting the family on board or caregivers or whoever is there to advocate for the older adult. We talk a lot about what do you want to have around you that uplifts and elevates your spirit?
Oh, yeah.
You can't possibly love everything.
Sure.
But look around. What really brings you up, reminds you of something significant and special and important? And start from there. When you know where you're moving to, it helps cognitively because you have an idea of the size. I also ask people, how do you want to live herein? What does your next transition in life look like to you?
Uh-huh.
So to help people get some clarity, get some pictures in their head for how they want to move forward in their lives. And then when we look at all the artifacts that represent different parts of their life over an entire life cycle, and you're dealing with adult children who often have stuff in their old bedrooms, so it's developing that conversation about need versus use versus value versus desire. And
Absolutely.
how do those filter in?
Yeah.
One of the great successes we've had lately in the downsizing process is we partner with a Canadian company called Max Sold. And Max Sold is a platform for online estate sale auctions.
Mm.
And what has been very fun and enjoyable is we have a house full of stuff, and it's not antiques, and it's used and worn furniture. It's hutches that held grandma's good dishes. It's where life happened.
Right.
And normally in the past, we would gather everything up and bring it to the nearest nonprofit. Sometimes we'd bring women's business power suits to dress for success and, these places, but often we would gather it all up and donate it responsibly. When we're doing the auctions, we catalog or tag everything in the house. Everything starts at $1. So this is not necessarily a program for people who go, I paid $5,000 for this. That's how much. No, this is for the blouse I'm wearing, coffee mugs, ceramic bowls. I mean, this is for everything in your house. And what we're finding is that families love the idea that people are buying it and taking it home, and the treasure lives on.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think
really
even
good.
as a family, it's, before we trash something, we always say, do you want this? Could you use this?
Yeah.
You kind of want it to be able to be usable and,
Yeah.
something that somebody will enjoy. But I think that's great.
So that's been a lot of fun, and it pays it forward. And there's this good sense. We did a home not too long ago, and there was an amazing album collection. And the son of our client, of the son who hired us, was a music person, and he had like the best conversations with the people that were picking up the albums. That was it, and so there's a sense of community. It's exciting. So that has been a really lovely way to downsize and know that your stuff lives on.
Sure.
And
Sure. We're talking with Dr. Regina Lark with A Clear Path, and give us one little tidbit as far as an organizational tool. And we do have your information scrolling at the bottom, but why don't you tell us how to get a hold of you?
I am very easy to get a hold of. I am at aclearpath.net, and my phone number, email address is there. But one tip that I could provide is if you think that you are about to start your next life transition, plan ahead, think ahead, as far ahead as you can, because you're going to face so many challenges with the stuff part. So I encourage people, if you have a lot of stuff and you're going to be moving at some point in the next year, walk around go to the piles of stuff and just get a sense of what's there. You don't have to make any decisions. Don't label, judge, or resent yourself because it's a mess, but just get a sense of what's there. What are you going to be parting with? What no longer has the right to live with you? It's taking up too much space.
Yeah. But I also love when you said, what makes you so happy to be with, and what gives you great joy to be with. So those things are the things that you want to focus on.
Yeah. Uplift and elevate. Why not?
Absolutely. Regina, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate your insights and the support that you offer your clients, and in particular seniors. And you are speaking my language as far as planning way in advance.
Planning.
That's so important. It doesn't matter what aspect, but really thinking your vision of aging, right? It's so important. So thank you so much. And hopefully we'll hear some stories from you in the future too.
I'll see you soon.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Sounds great. Thank you. I think that was great. I'm going to bring Steve back and see what he thinks. And I think clutter.
Hello.
Hi. I think our possessions can really kind of take over us sometimes, and it's nice to know that there are people out there that can organize us. And I am not. I can put things in order, but I am not a natural organizer.
Right.
Make sense? I don't know. How are you? Are you very organized or?
Well, I think I'm organized in the sense that I know where my stuff is.
Okay.
But I have been accused of holding on to things I don't need. So, but it was interesting. When I was listening to Regina, I was thinking two things. One, she could never go to my parents' house. And two, so many of the things that she said apply to my parents and their inability sometimes to just to get rid of something, and it was the comment that she made about I might need this at some point, is something that they're always like, wow, I might need this down the road. Like, how long is this road that you're taking that you might need this,
Right. Well, I mean, on a personal level, I was in a marriage with someone who had some mental health issues, but also was a hoarder. And I would spend an hour cleaning my dining room table up every day with some of the things that he would put all over and pile on top of other things and try to organize the children's homework and so forth. And I have to say, going out on your own and being free of those things were absolutely uplifting. And
it's very liberating.
Yeah, it really is. But for someone who really is trapped in that, it can be very remorseful and very overwhelming for people. So
yeah, it's suffocating.
Yeah, but they are really challenged. It really is an issue where they really have a hard time. They cannot get rid of some of those things. It's very challenging. So I think having an expert work through this, because I don't think a true identified hoarder is capable of letting go of a lot of things. So they really do need the support and the help. So, I think from my perspective, I always look at, can somebody clearly walk through a hallway without potentially, falling or
hurting themselves?
Can they get to their room? And we have worked with people who can't sleep in their rooms anymore. They really don't even have a place to sit on the couch very easily. And we had one client a long time ago who was actually sleeping out on a park bench at night because she was afraid to fall asleep with all the beekeeping living in her house and all the clutter there. So it can be really hard for people. So
I have one additional comment from our question I want to just bring to our attention. So this is from Ginny Delgado. She says that EMT and paramedics are trained and can address any issue, the issue at home, and they could also administer medication.
Nice. So that's right.
So another reason.
Direction from the hospital to do that, absolutely, or from an ER doctor.
Yeah. So Ginny, thank you for that information.
Yeah, no, that's great. In fact, we should have an ambulance company on, and maybe they can answer all those questions in great detail. That would be kind of nice because they're independent. They're independent providers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
great suggestion.
Any good plans for the weekend?
Seeing a grandson this weekend.
Nice.
I'm excited. Haven't seen him in 2 months. 2 months? Month and a half. Too long.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
How old is he now? Is he like 5 months now?
Just coming up on 5 months.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to have a 1-year-old soon, a grandson, and my 3-year-old granddaughter. So it'll be a couple of weeks that I'm going to be babysitting for a couple of days in a row. So I'm very excited about that while my daughter is.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Well, have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, everybody. And remember, you have control over your visionary plan to age and to live. Really, it's about living. So I want you to live the best life ever. So thanks so much,
Stay
Steve.
safe.
And we'll go ahead and I'll do our little extra video here if I can find it. Oh, let's see, where is it? Here we go. All right, bye everyone. And